stewards of this land, the Ramaytush Ohlone, understand the interconnectedness of all things and the importance of maintaining harmony with nature. Likewise, Pacifica School District commits to teaching our school community how to be responsible stewards of this land.
Thank you. Kelly, would you please take the roll call?
Trustee Burdell.
Here.
Trustee Brocchini.
Here.
Trustee Doggett.
Here.
Trustee Patel.
Here.
And Trustee Villalobos.
Here.
Thank you.
The district digitally records the audio and video portions of the meetings. All recordings are kept in the superintendent's office for 30 days and are available during that time period for inspection by members of the public on district equipment without charge. Speakers wishing to address the board on agenda or non-agenda items, please submit your first and last name and agenda item you wish to speak on in the Q&A area of the webinar. Please do not submit comments or questions in the Q&A area. You will be called to address the board. Your microphone will be unmuted and you may speak up to 3 minutes. After you have spoken, your microphone will be muted. Okay, the board met in closed session regarding a conference with labor negotiators and significant exposure to litigation. Case number 1, the board voted 5-0 to approve. And in case number 2, the board voted 5-0 to approve. Okay, approval of the minutes for August 11th, 2021. Are there any questions regarding the minutes of August 11th, 2021, regular board meeting of trustees? And I'm gonna go through and call. Any questions? Trustee Brocchini?
No questions.
Trustee Villalobos?
No questions.
Trustee Doggett?
No questions.
And Trustee Patel?
No questions.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve the minutes of August 11th, 2021, regular board meeting?
A motion to approve the minutes from August 11th, 2021.
I'll second.
Okay. Kelly, can you take the roll call vote?
Trustee Burdell.
Yes.
Trustee Brocchini.
Yes.
Trustee Doggett.
Yes.
Trustee Patel.
Yes.
And Trustee Villalobos.
Yes.
The motion passes 5-0. Thank you.
Okay. The approval of the agenda and consent agenda. All items on the consent agenda will be approved with one motion, which is not debatable and which requires a unanimous vote for passage. If any member of the board, the superintendent, or the public so requests, any item shall be removed from this section and placed on the regular order of business following approval of the consent agenda. Are there any questions regarding the approval of the agenda or consent agenda? Trustee Villalobos?
No questions.
Trustee Brocchini?
No questions.
Trustee Doggett?
No questions.
Trustee Patel?
No questions.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve the agenda and consent agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda and the consent agenda.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Kelly, can you take the roll call vote?
Trustee Burdell.
Yes.
Trustee Brocchini.
Yes.
Trustee Doggett.
Yes.
Trustee Patel.
Yes.
Trustee Villalobos.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion passes 5-0.
Okay, communications. Speakers wishing to address the board on agenda items or non-agenda items, please submit your first and last names on the agenda items you wish to speak on in the Q&A area of the webinar. Please do not submit comments or questions in the Q&A area. You will be called on to address the board. Your microphone will be unmuted and you may speak up to 3 minutes. After you have spoken, your microphone will be muted. LSEA?
This is the first time I've had my camera on for a board meeting. So hello, hi everybody. And it's because we wanted to welcome Trustee Patel. So LSEA would like to welcome you to your new position. My name is Megan Ellsburn and I am a teacher at Cabrillo School and president of the union representing classroom teachers, special educators, counselors, and psychologists. We are a strong, cohesive group whose number one goal is to put students first. We do this with teamwork of our union members, all district staff, board members, parents, and community partners. Welcome to the team, Trustee Patel. Like all teams, we have peaks and valleys. We always like the peaks and we work together as we trudge the path to the top. It can be steep and difficult, but with open communication and dialogue, our team continues to put our students first. Many of our union team members have been expressing concern about protocols for what to do when we have positive cases in our classrooms, have exposure to positive cases, etc. We have expressed these concerns to the district and are looking forward to a to-do list type of communication for our teachers and our parent community. In situations with COVID exposures, we know things aren't always black and white, but we hope they can be more clear as many of us are still a bit confused. LSEA welcomes any of the board members to reach out and chat with LSEA leadership or to attend one of our general meetings. Meetings are held online at 3:30 on the Thursday before a school board meeting. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. CSEA?
Heather, I see you're talking. You're muted right now.
I just promoted the wrong Nicole.
On Nicole.
Here we go. There we go. Sorry. Now we need your sound, hon.
You're muted.
That happens a lot. All right. Hello, my name is Nicole Sayers, and I am the president of the CSEA. Welcome back, and a special welcome to Trustee Patel. It's been great to be back in school, working with the kids, teachers, and all the classified staff in person. I can speak for most of the CSEA members when I say that we are really enjoying working to help the students and their families. The unfortunate thing is that I am consistently receiving phone calls, emails, messages, as well as in-person conversations with staff who are feeling harassed and are being treated poorly by other district staff. Others tell me that they are upset and that they feel like leaving the district. All of us need to consider our tone and how we speak to each other. Remember that everyone is working as hard as they can, and be patient if things don't always go as quickly as expected, or if things don't turn out the way you expected. Push the frustration away and remember that everyone is trying hard to be their best. The pandemic is not over, and we are trying to live as normally as we can. Remember that you do not know what other people are going through. Be considerate. We need to ask, can I help you? Are you okay? Is there anything that I can do for you? In the words of Maya Angelou, people will forget what you said, and people will forget what you did, but people will never forget the way you made them feel. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. People wishing to address the board. I think both in the Q&A so far are on particular items. So we would have them come later. If we have anyone on a non-agenda item, what's your name in the Q&A?
Actually, Elizabeth, the first one, Adrian, is a 9C, which is communications.
Oh, okay, sorry. Okay.
I'll go get that. Oh, and I've got to put Nicole down. Sorry.
Okay, so we just don't know if that's a agenda or non-agenda item.
Okay, there we go. Change role to attendee. And then I'm looking for Adrian Villas allowed to talk. Mr. Villas?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hi. Hi, thank you. Hi, good evening. My name is Adrian. I'm a parent of a first and third grader at Valamar. I have two topics to address the board. My first topic is regarding COVID communication to parents. First, we would like more specific information. On Monday afternoon, I received an email from the superintendent saying that 5 members of our Valamar school community have tested positive for COVID-19 since the start of school on August 17. That's the very first notification regarding COVID for Valamar, and there's no further information. I can help wonder, are they related? Are any of the new cases a close contact of the other cases? This information would help parents make wiser decisions. Shortly after I received another email that my daughter was a close contact, I reached out to a couple of Valamar parents. Imagine how shocked and upset that they had to learn from me, but not from the school, because our children play and eat lunch together. We need the entire grade being informed which classroom has the case, and even better, to the entire school. I have another child in a different grade, and while waiting for the testing, I pulled her out of school for the safety of our class. I believe this is the right things to do. My second topic is regarding the options available for coming back to school. At the end of the summer, we were given the choices to put our kids back in person full-time or stay homeschool for the entire year, while also losing our spots with our current school. We don't want to lose our favorite school. We don't want to homeschool for a whole year when kids might actually get vaccinated before January. I didn't want to bring my kids back to school because I predicted that what is actually happening happened. But I gave in because of being pressured by the choices. I would love something in between until January and to see how things will be going with COVID cases and be able to come back to Valamar. Colleges and universities are requiring vaccination for students to come back on campus. So why should we rush the safety of our children while being so close to their vaccination? We just spent nearly 20 months keeping our children safe at home, and we are about to throw it all of those efforts out of the window in the first few weeks of school. I'd like to finish by saying that I don't want to bring my kids back to school with the current COVID situation. We do need a third option without feeling being forced to bring the kids back full-time due to the lack of other acceptable options. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, and should we take Michelle Gray now or at the opening of school update? Or COVID notification process?
Might be best now. I don't know that the opening, so let me, hang on 1 second, I'm sorry. Michelle Gray. There we go. Hi, Michelle.
Hi, can you all hear me?
We can.
Great, thank you so much. And I'd like to echo a couple of comments. One, I do think everyone is trying very hard, and I feel for our teachers and staff who are working hard to try and figure all of this out. I am concerned that the notification process right now seems to be around business hours, which is just not responsive to how viruses work. Something happens on a Friday afternoon, it can't even be processed till Monday morning, notifications going out Monday afternoon. The whole point of having the notification process is to really try and make alert to the community so that they can have the right decisions on what to do with their children and sort of stop the spread as much as possible. So I feel like now that there was this initial plan and we've put it into process, I'd really like to hear from all of you what modifications you'd like to recommend, because again, 9 to 5 is not going to work. I also have a child at Valley Mart, which is really concerning. I have a child at IBL as well. And I don't think there's a lot of consideration about the siblings in the same household and what needs to happen. So at this point, I think my son may end up at Valley Mart being out of school more than he's in school. Now, I have workbooks at home, but it is not the same as this wonderful work that a teacher would give. So unfortunately, we're going to put more, on the teacher's plate to have to come together to supplement for these kids that do need to stay home, right? They're making the tough decision to stay home, their families to try and make sure they're quarantining appropriately, and things like that. So I really feel like we need to have an update to the notification process. And Mr. Bartfield, I think you are working exceptionally hard. Unfortunately, you probably need 2 or 3 of you. We need somebody to work 24/7, right? The whole point of the notification is really to kind of stem this and have the information go out as quickly as possible. We also have to be mindful beyond just that one classroom, as Adrian was saying. Their soccer has started now. We're having to notify teams and things like that. So I think having a quicker notification process is going to help, really understanding how our kids are going to be able to make up for work and things like that. And, again, a big shout out to the staff and to the teachers who I think are really doing a wonderful job. But I feel like we're not necessarily stepping up to the demands of what's happening right now. It was a good plan. We've now seen the plan in action. There are some deficiencies there. So I'd like to understand the recommendations on how things will be modified moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle.
We have a Crystal there.
Hang on 1 second. There you go. Miss Lou?
Hi, can you hear me now?
Yep.
Yeah, so I would like to echo the comments of the other 2 parents. So I also have a child at Palmar, and the number of cases in the past week have been really alarming. Unlike Ocean Shore, which reported 2 cases and sort of didn't hear anything since then, at least to my knowledge, Palmar has consistently had cases over the last week, which is very concerning. And we aren't getting the data, so we don't understand really, whether the people who are the students who are infected, whether they're in the same classroom, whether it's because they're around each other, or whether we're in a situation where there's student-to-student transmission, which is more alarming. And so I do request, that we have more of that data. It's really hard to understand, like, if your child is an indirect contact, if they're a direct contact, really, like, how does anyone know for sure? And so, it's really helpful to understand better what, I know there's privacy reasons, so we're not asking for like the student, but having a better sense of perhaps the grade or the class or, information like that. I also, do have concerns about the modified quarantine process. I know that that is a process. My understanding is that's based on the California Department of Public Health. I think that modifications should be made given the rapidly evolving nature of our COVID virus. It seems like guidelines that have passed 2 months ago change because the virus keeps on changing, and so it is very risky to me to consider that a close contact can be in school without being tested first. I know they're required to have twice weekly testing, but in the interim, before they get tested, they can transmit the Delta virus to someone else. And to be able to allow that child to be in school is really concerning. I really appreciate the first parent who spoke, pulled the child's sibling out on his own. I don't know if that would have been, I don't think that would have been required. I really appreciate, that parent thinking of the safety of other students and taking it upon himself to keep his child at home. And I will have to say that my daughter, who's in kindergarten, the classrooms are really small, and I do have concerns about the amount of physical distancing that is between children. They all sit in a small table. There's 5 kids per table. I think, even with the restraints of the classroom, there could be steps taken to increase that distancing. It might not look the prettiest, but I think in reality, we should really prioritize safety over sort of the aesthetics of the classroom. So I think that's, some of the things that I'd like you guys to consider.
Thank you. That was a perfect 3 minutes. Thank you.
I think that's the last person I see. Okay, item D for correspondence. Dr. Olson?
I do not have any correspondence.
Okay, board superintendent communications. We're down the list. Trustee Villalobos?
I'll just make it quick. I was kind of busy. Last month I met with Elizabeth and Heather going over the candidate questions. Then I attended the special meeting to interview and appoint new board member. Welcome, Needy. And next we had a special meeting work study on equity and race. I did a site visit to Ocean Shore School. I saw very positive things there. Not normal, but it just felt good to see the kids engaged with each other. Unfortunately, the principal at Ortega had to cancel because he had to sub for a class. So I'm getting the feeling we might need more subs like every other district. Then I had a walk with Needy, just getting to know each other along the ocean. That was very nice. I did receive 3 correspondence from parents. One of them was about the special education and the new social gatherings that'll happen once a month at Soul Grind. I just think that's wonderful. Unfortunately, I couldn't make it because I had to work. The others were about COVID cases at Valimar and the concerns with COVID cases and close contacts, kind of like the siblings. If we have one at one school and another one at another school, they were very valid concerns. I would request though that if you have concerns about anything COVID related or education, is to try to go to your principal first, because they're the ones who are the most knowledgeable at that time. And then if that doesn't work, then contact the district office, but always try to go to your principal first. And that's it. It's just been a very busy month.
Okay, I'll go ahead and go. Besides having the meeting where we appointed Needy, so welcome. It was nice to have coffee with you and try and get to know each other. Had the workforce housing meeting. The presentation is going to be later on that. We met with the city to try and get that up to date. The equity workshop with Nicole Anderson, and yeah, just like Laverne said, working towards getting a new trustee and deciding on Needy Patel, which welcome to the board. And now Trustee Burkini.
Well, I also was at the interview, and again, welcome, Needy. We got a chance to have coffee, so it's good to get to know you personally. So let's see, I also attended the workforce housing meeting, and I'll mention that or talk a little bit more about that, but I was really excited that we were able to meet with the city manager in that meeting. I attended the first day of school at IBL, and it was really great just to see, well, it's hard to see smiling faces, but smiling eyes, and of all the teachers, the staff, and the kids, and just I see a renewed enthusiasm for school. Everybody had it was just nice to see everybody there. And let's see, I want to make sure as an elected official that I'm letting everyone know to make sure you vote by September 14th. It's a mail-in ballot and it's really important. And also the equity training, I attended that too. And I didn't get a chance to mention, but I was glad to see that the cabinet was there attending also, so that we're all getting on the same page at the same time. So that was great. And that's it for me today.
Thank you.
Okay, Trustee Doggett.
I also attended the equity workshop and the special meeting to bring on Trustee Patel. I also got the opportunity to have coffee with Trustee Patel. So it has been a busy, busy month. That's pretty much it for me. Don't have anything else I want to add.
Thanks, Kat.
Okay, Trustee Patel.
So on my list, I had an onboarding meeting with Superintendent Olson. I also attended the special meeting on equity, which was fantastic to be one of my first sessions. So that was fantastic. I've gone to the district office twice to complete forms regarding the provisional appointment. And then, as everyone mentioned, I've had coffee or a walk with Elizabeth, Linda, Laverne, and Kai.
That was a busy 2 weeks.
Thank you. And Dr. Olson, did you have anything?
Nope, I have been beginning of school and to different schools, and I have been to Valamar back and forth a couple of times this week, but we also are spending a long amount of time in our with Yolanda Pranza in what I call the bunker, which is where we do contact tracing and all notifications and other things. So I've been probably spending at least half of almost every day addressing some of the COVID issues that are out there. So you'll hear more about that later in the meeting.
Okay, we'll go to district business, district goals. The district values and goals provided in our local control accountability plan, LCAP, and strategic plan. All of our district board agenda items are tied to these goals. One or more of these goals is listed in the description of each board agenda item. The details for each of those district goals can be accessed on our district website at www.pacificasd.org. Okay, item A, the opening of school. Dr. Olson.
Great. I am happy to kick this presentation off and share it with Will and John tonight. But as we do this, as the speakers and the two association presidents recognized, this has been one of the most challenging openings of school. It is absolutely my pleasure and my honor to open our schools full classes, full day, and to do it at the same time as addressing the Delta variant has become an incredible challenge. So I appreciate that people recognize how hard this is and how challenging it is. So thank you very much for that. Just to know, I added a couple of slides, and in a virtual world, it's relatively easy to do that on a Brown Act because few people have paper copies of this. So just know that I made those slides that have been added this afternoon. Those will have a bright yellow background. Next slide, please. So when we want to talk about the opening of school, this is so much more than just COVID, and it would be very easy to get focused on COVID. But if we think about that, when schools went into distance learning to address the pandemic, some of the things that we need to think about in our return to school is how to have universal supports that are both for everyone and tiered in both academics and social emotional learning. You're going to hear about that tonight. As we heard in the spring, and we continue to hear, the student belonging, relationships, and well-being is very, very important. And then, as addressed by both association presidents and would be a part of any plan, is that adult resilience and well-being is very, very important now. And we think about what struggles these are, whether that's doing something you've never done before or being faced with fear or something like that. So we'll talk about that just a little bit today. And then obviously safety is kind of the foundation of this. And so as we get started, I would just like to put a shout out to our principals. And if you think about, as we all start every school year, it's a lot of work to get started and putting together classes and making sure that all the classrooms are ready to go. But this year has been just extra challenging, making sure that there's enough space at lunch and making sure that the tables get wiped down and making sure that people have what they need. So I'd really like to, if anybody runs into a principal in the next week, please thank them. They are cheerleaders and coaches and often they're wiping down the tables themselves. And so we are very, very grateful for the work that they've done to get school started. Next page, please. So tonight we're going to talk about, as we bring students back, it's very important that we get to know how our students are doing and what are their strengths and what they need. So we'll talk about assessment. We'll talk about our current enrollment, special education. John will highlight the student services department, and then we will talk about COVID-19. So let me hand it over to Will Lucy.
All right. So when we enter every year, our initial focus is getting to know our students. Well, it's much more important this year in that they've been not with us in person for over a year. So the center area there is the knowing of each student. And part of that is knowing what individual students need, what some students need, and what all students need, along with what the staff need to know. And so it starts off with assessment and assessment to instruction. So this year, that's where our focus is getting to know our students. So and we all know that for all students to excel, teachers must learn about them, but also connect with each of them. And that connection is really, really important. And it's not just about finding out how they learn, but it's also about finding out who they are. So that is a kind of a critical piece to this this journey from assessment to instruction. And so on this academic side of it, the academic focuses at the beginning of the year start with knowing each student and analyzing the data and collaborating, and then that powerful, impactful instruction that comes from the knowledge of that data. So in knowing each student, we are starting this year with assessing. We're assessing. We have a comprehensive assessment system. We have a assessment calendar to find out where they are in all those core subject areas. And then we're going to spend a good amount of time looking at the data that comes from those assessments and not just analyzing it individually, but collaborating together with the principals and the teachers and the support staff to define what all students need from that data. And then what some students need and what individual students need. And then from that collaboration and from that analyzing of the data, that's when we do the what's next. What do we do? We have this, we understand where they're at, what do we need to do? And that's where the planning of instruction, the teaching structures, and also the support plans come from. It's based off that. And so our assessment calendar, we have our every year typical state assessments. So we have our LPAC, and our initial LPACs are actually going to be starting fairly soon, and they'll be done within the first 30 days of enrollment. And we have around about 60 to 70 students that we need to do initial assessments. And those are for students that are just entering our school or entering, and they have on their home language surveys that a language other than English. So those students will be assessed. And then we have our summative assessment that occurs in February. And that's for all of our English learners, all of our identified English learners. And then we have the CAST testing, as we have every year, the CAST and the CAW for science, and then also the SBAC and the CAW for English language arts and math. And that happens in April through June. Usually it's mostly in the month of May that occurs. And then we have our physical fitness test. Now, we took a break from the physical fitness test, or not a break, but it was not required last year due to non-in-person instruction. But this year, as up to this point, it is going to be required. And that happens again in that March, May area. And it's for our 5th and 7th grades. And then we have our local assessments. And so what's newer this year, we have for our kindergartners and our TKs given what's called the ESGI, which is a pre-reading, phonemic awareness and pre-math assessment And we're going to be giving that 3 times a year. Some of our teachers in the past have given this assessment, but we're going to be doing this for all of our kindergarten students. And then we have the iReady, and this is the new program that we're doing this year. And it is a diagnostic reading and math. There's 2 separate assessments, and we're in the middle of our fall window right now. So that'll also be given 3 times a year, and it'll be given to our grades 1 through 8. And then we have Fontes Pinnell back. That's an assessment that we've used that's done individualized. It's one-on-one assessment, and it's really that's an assessment that the teachers really get to know not only the level of their students' reading, but also what type of readers they are, and a lot of other kind of individualized information on their students' reading levels or their reading proficiency. And then that again is given 3 times a year. We are in the assessment calendar for our 3rd through 8th. We are going to give it to all for in the fall, but in the winter and spring, it'll only be given, or will only be expected to be given to any of those students that are either at approaching benchmark, that have not had at that benchmark level. Those are the students that will be given in the winter and the spring. And then our MDTP, which is a math readiness test, that's given twice a year. We were giving this just to our 8th graders as they were near the end of their 8th grade year, to see where they would be entering into high school, what if they were going to be in course 2 in high school, or would they be starting with course 1 in their freshman year in high school. But now we're going to be doing it with our 6th through 8. They have readiness tests going into 6th grade, they have readiness tests going into 7th grade and into 8th grade, along with going into 9th grade. So those will be given twice a year. And then we have a local assessment, and it says there it's CAST-like. It's very similar in the look of it to a CAST test, and it's a science assessment. And that one is still, it's been developed, but we're going to be giving that twice a year in the fall and also in the winter. And then when we've analyzed this data, both not just for the academic area, but we'll be doing a lot around the social emotional learning. So so in that area too, we'll be looking at it, we'll be addressing it in kind of a universal tiered support system. And again, this comes back to the idea of knowing what our individual students need, what some of our students need, and what all of our students or these universal approaches. So it goes along with this idea of establishing a kind of a strong monitoring system that allows you to differentiate the support that you have for each group. Some call it a tiered system or an MTSS system, where multiple tiered support system. So we're following that. That's going to be the look of the practice we have right now. Right now we have some of these structures in place, but there's still a lot of work to be done in this area. And this will come from our analysis of the data, our analysis of where teachers are seeing these students and where they're at, and then really individualizing their support for those students in those areas.
I've got the next slide. So if we think about building based on what we know about our students and framing the work that we do with an asset-based lens, so what are our students' strengths? What are the strengths of the family? And seeing students for their current abilities and moving forward. So the very basis of this is going to be our work and family engagement. So it was something that we started prior to the pandemic, and then you add a pandemic to it, where parents have been sitting right next to their children at the kitchen table. They know a lot about their children as learners and are very curious to learn about what are their formal strengths, or what are their things that come out on the tests. And so one of the things that we're going to work with we're working with a company called High Expectations, and Tanae Weller is a coach of the principals, but also a great professional development leader for families and for staff. And so we look at developing the capacity of both families and staff at the same time. And so that's called dual capacity. So if we think about, for example, is that we don't necessarily want to go back to our older models of family engagement where maybe some families were very comfortable coming to school and others were not, or may have had an uncomfortable experience with school themselves. So making sure that we're doing professional development with principals and teachers so that we take responsibility for welcoming all and providing information that's important and meaningful and developing that partnership. That's the responsibility of the educators. At the same time, like on the family perspective, is getting their contributions and their perspectives and making sure that all feel respected, valued, and heard. And so this is a really important part of our work as we move forward. We'll take the next slide, please. And then I will do this last one before I kick off is just in the 3 weeks since we've started school, we know that going into this school year that we have faced challenges as adults. And what we want to do is make sure that our teachers and staff have their social emotional well-being so that they have the ability and capacity to take care of students and families. And so that will be things like talking about resilience, self-care, our social emotional learning program, restorative practices, culturally responsive teaching. And then very important is, and this came out during the pandemic, was in that partnership is elevating teacher voices to gather feedback and drive school improvement. So these are, this is the work that we're going to be doing. It's not just this year, it's the next 3 years, but it's very important to our work. I'd like to introduce John Bartfield, Director of Special Education and Student Services.
Thank you, Heather. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the social emotional learning and mental health of our students. This is just so important this year. And even prior to the pandemic, students in California, students in our county were experiencing high levels of mental health difficulties, depression, anxiety. You have a pandemic that happens year and a half amount of time still going on. And this just exasperates mental health difficulties for many students and creates increased need really that we need to respond to. So really, we're going to be attuned to those increased needs and be proactive with the support and intervention that we provide for students. We're very well positioned to do this. We're well staffed, and we'll talk about this, our social emotional wellness team in a future slide. The other piece that we've been able to do staffing wise this year is to increase our school counselor pool. So we have 6 school counselors. We're still trying to hire. We have 1 vacancy remaining at Ocean Shore that we're actively trying to fill. But to be able to have a school counselor at every school, along with our other providers through our social emotional wellness team, we're in really good position. The other thing we've been able to do is we've been able to allocate Christina Ierson, who's one of our mental health counselors, to take more of a lead role and be the lead mental health counselor. So with this increased staff, she and I are meeting with the staff on a regular basis to make sure that we're being consistent with how we're seeing students, what we're providing for students, our referral process, giving our counselors and staff chances to give feedback to each other, work together. So having Christina in that role is very, very important as we move forward this year. We also have we're in year 2 of implementation of Caring School Community, which is a social emotional learning curriculum that we have a slide in the future here that we will talk about. 2 other things on this slide. We are partnering again with Youth Service Bureau. So This is a wonderful agency that is, we have staff from Youth Service Bureau working in our schools. So we will have 3 days a week of service, 2 days at Ocean Shore. It's going to be 2 days a week of a school counselor from Youth Service Bureau, and then 1 day a week of a mental health trainee. And that'll be on top of the school counselor that we end up hiring for Ocean Shore. So that support will be in place. We also are going to have mental health trainees at Valamar, IBL, and Cabrillo. So these will be staff who are qualified to provide counseling services for students. And with this, coupled with our school counselors and our other providers, we'll be able to provide tiered support in the area of mental health in our response. The other piece here is we are continuing with Care Solace, which is a concierge service that we have here in the district that matches students and families with mental health services. So it links them with mental health services based on their needs, their preferences, availability, insurance, many factors, and it's a 24/7 service that's available for students and families that are in crisis. So we also have it for our staff, and you know they will connect with the appropriate agency, and they'll continue to kind of see it through until the family's linked up and receiving services. Next slide. This is a slide about our social emotional wellness team, or the SO team, and it is made up of our school counselors that I talked about. We also have our school psychologist. They predominantly work with students who receive special education services. They complete assessments, determine eligibility for special education. They also work on positive behavior supports and behavior interventions. And we have a whole behavior team that's there, but we really do recognize that behavior and mental health are intermingled. One affects the other. And sometimes it's gray and it's hard to ferret out exactly what is what. But so school psychologists are on the front lines with that, and they do work somewhat with students on social emotional needs on a short-term basis. Our mental health counselors provide IEP-based mental health services. So students who have IEPs that have educationally related mental health services in their IEP are seen by mental health counselors. And then our behavior team, we have an incredibly robust behavior team headed by Jen Gray, who is our board certified behavior analyst. We have behaviorists at every school that are assigned, some of them are assigned to our self-contained classes and our special programs, and others to specific students. They receive extra training and provide direct services for students. Next slide. This is a slide about the caring school community that we talked about. It's our curriculum. They really work with these 4 tenets. The key with caring school community is that relationships, positive relationships, are at the core of a positive learning community, and that's really the key is building these genuine caring relationships through lessons. They're daily, they're weekly lessons that directly teach social skills, and the students have a chance to practice these social skills and through different means. So it really creates that restorative, positive culture at our schools. It helps to contribute to that, which is what we're striving for. This is a slide with our enrollment. So, yeah, our enrollment. Will tricked me there. So enrollment is a part of student services, of course, and we list all of the grade levels, we list all of the schools, we see the grand totals at the bottom. One takeaway here is we're about in the neighborhood of about 250 students, less than we had pre-pandemic. However, it's interesting, we are seeing students moving back to Pacifica. We are enrolling students on a regular basis. And we're actually seeing students move back to Pacifica who moved out during the pandemic for various reasons. There have been a number of those families. So we wanted to provide you with these numbers. Independent study is listed there. So with the AB 130 independent study law that is in place for this year, we have 54 students in that program. So in special education, I just listed our specialized programs here. So we have 10 special day classes across the district, 3 at the preschool level, 6 at K-5, and then 1 at middle school. We currently have 1 SDC teacher vacancy at Ocean Shore, which we are working very, very hard to fill. We're hopeful that that will be resolved shortly. The opening of the school year has been, it's been wonderful, first of all, for me as a new director of the department to get to know staff, to get around to the schools, to see the program, to see the students. It's so impressive, and I just feel lucky getting to see what I'm coming into here, which is a wonderful, wonderful district. We have been a lot of meetings, of course. So we've been meeting with smaller groups. So we've met with our school psychologists. School counselors aren't necessarily a part of special education, but we've been meeting with our school counselors. We did our opening teacher meeting and related service providers. And at these meetings, we've really had to kind of prioritize where we are with the IEP process, with things that are pending from the pandemic. Taking a look at the caseloads, prioritizing how to take care of things that need to be followed up on that may have that we have some gaps on from the pandemic. And I want to just echo what Will was presenting earlier, and this is very, very important within the IEP process as far as getting to know our students and getting to know what their present levels are, because this is a crucial part of the IEP process, is to have assessments that lead to the present levels, accurate present levels, which drive the IEP goals for the students. And the IEP goals ultimately are what determine the placement and services for students. So we're really honed in on formal assessments, informal assessments, seeing where our students are with IEPs, and making sure that our goals are accurate and that the services are in place to meet those goals. So it's all about that data-driven decision-making within the IEP process, and making sure that we're implementing least restrictive environment for our students. That chain is called educational benefit in the special education world, that connection between assessment, present levels, goals, and services. And we're focusing in on that in our department this year, on really making sure that there is that connection, there's that linkage between all of those pieces of the IEP, maximization of that educational benefit. We're also just making sure that everybody is aware of our different processes, our different procedures for referrals, for services. We do have established district practices that we need to follow, and making sure that everybody's aware of that. And last but absolutely not least is an extremely crucial part of our work. And this is, again, that parent engagement that Heather was mentioning earlier. This is a key part, first of all, of the IEP process, is the parent participation in the IEP process. It's also just in general, we want to build and maintain collaborative, transparent relationships with our families. I feel really lucky, the district's really lucky that there are structures that are already in place that are amazing. We have a CPAC, Special Education Parent Advisory Committee. We have a smaller parent council that I've already met with. And we've also developed a parent education series this school year, where our first meeting is going to be on September 14th, and we are going to present with some district staff to parents on the topic of accommodations and modifications. And we're having, I think, 5 parent ed sessions this school year. So this will be a absolute, I can't take credit for the social event that Trustee Villalobos talked about earlier. That's all the parents. But that's just amazing too, the fact that the parents are able to connect with each other. But this will be a very important part of our work.
I'm going to give you just a second to take a drink since this has been a long presentation. So I'll talk about child nutrition. As you know, the federal government this year is providing one free lunch and 1 free breakfast for any student who wants that. And we're serving between 25 and 60 breakfasts per day at a school, and about 200 lunches per day per school. Next year, the state of California will be paying for the free lunch and free breakfast, but this is really a great asset for our schools. I'm going to keep moving, please. And I'm going to hand this over to John, but we are really fortunate to have the chance to talk tonight about, we've talked about our schools and our classrooms, and now we want to talk about the safety and preventing COVID-19 infections. And like I said, in the Pacifica School District, that Dr. Carlos Chavez Torres is the connection for COVID for staff. And John is the connection for COVID for students. Yolanda Pranza is our temporary administrative secretary doing contact tracing. But it's really an all hands on deck experience with the principals. So let me hand it back to John.
So the 7 safety layers are here, so important in the prevention of COVID. We have the vaccine, of course, masks, ventilation, hand washing, testing, and the contact tracing. And then there's one there of staying home when you're sick. And if we can move to the next slide. These are specific recommendations from the California Department of Public Health and the pandemic recovery framework that we base our procedures on, of what staff members and students with COVID symptoms, the criteria that they need to meet before they return in person. So the symptoms passing and having that negative COVID test. We're going to go through quite a bit of information here, and we do want to just also preface this by saying and acknowledging that this is an extremely challenging time for families. We are aware of that. It is, with some of the positive cases that we have, it's very, very disconcerting. We realize that, but we realize that. So that's the point I wanted to make there. So modified quarantine, we're going to have a slide about that. As Heather was saying, contact tracing is our amazing Yolanda Pranza. She is phenomenal. This is an extremely time-consuming process. It's a complicated process, and we're lucky. We're working with San Mateo County right now on hopefully some help that can come in and do some of this contact tracing for us, a third party. This would free Yolanda up to do more of the communication with families, the student testing that we're going to be putting in place. So more to come on that. But Yolanda is exceptional. I don't know how she does it. She's working so many hours on the contact tracing, which is another really important preventative layer in COVID. So we are excited to be getting student testing put in place at our schools. So we have partnered with a company called Ginkgo by Concentric, or Concentric by Ginkgo, who is going to be coming in and doing our pool testing, our pool PCR testing. And we are looking to get this in place next week. This will enable us to test about 25 students at the same time, testing the district once a week. And we test a large group. If we have a positive test, we're able to come in and do a rapid follow-up test, which is a rapid antigen test, to pinpoint the positive case. So this is surveillance testing that we'll be able to have at our schools. It will be crucial in our prevention measures. We also are going to be training staff on the rapid antigen testing that we will be doing. So aside from the pool testing and the follow-up rapid antigen, we will be able to do our own rapid test as well. So we're going to be training staff on that process as well. We have a COVID dashboard, which we will show you, which we're keeping track of. It's on our website, keeping track of the positive cases. We'll talk about the travel recommendations. And then there is a pretty significant change to the guidance since school has started, which is on the next slide. And it comes for students who are vaccinated, that are close contacts. And so this comes from a flow chart that we follow for school exposure and how we respond to school exposure. And the arrow there is pointing because the prior to August 23rd, fully vaccinated students did not need to have a test. And as of August 23rd, they do need to get tested 3 to 5 days after the exposure. So that is a change since we started school. So the modified quarantine process is what our close contacts who are masked have been placed on, and it's important. It's a structure that is in place so we can keep our students in school. Students need to be asymptomatic first of all, and continue to wear masks, continue to follow the safety measures that we have in place, and there need to be 2 negative COVID tests within a 10-day period. So we, in these last exposures, have had to ask parents to provide that, which we realize is a burden. But we are excited to have our own testing in place where we'll be able to provide this testing. And the other piece about modified quarantine is quarantining from extracurricular activities within the community setting. So this is, again, crucial because we're able to have our students stay in school who are close contacts. Quarantine. So sometimes, there are, as you can see on the chart, if a student was not masked, there is a quarantine for close contacts. And sometimes we do need this extra restrictive measure of a 10-day quarantine. It's something that we are considering. We're in close contact with the county and the public health department on the Valamar classes where we have the multiple exposures. And we are always considering this step for safety, but it is more restrictive. So it is another option that is in place. It's mandated, again, if a student was not masked, that's a close contact. This is what our COVID-19 dashboard looks like on our website. And you can see we've had a total of 11 positive cases this year. So we continue to update that every day. Travel recommendations. So these are recommendations from CDC, and we are treating the domestic travel recommendations as recommendations. We're strongly recommending that people follow these. We are mandating the measures here for the international travel. There they are. The wanted to also close with just reiterating how important the safety layers are. And we continue to be circling back with our school sites. Our principals have been amazing in making sure that these things are in place at the schools with regard to the ventilation, the masks, the hand washing, and we will continue to be vigilant.
What questions do you have?
I can start.
Go ahead.
I wanted to know first what the status was for the counselor at Ocean Shore, if there's any leads on that. I guess that would be
We did an interview a couple of weeks ago, and we did make an offer, which was not accepted, and we actually have an interview tomorrow for that position. So we're gonna hope that we have a good candidate and a good process.
And then just continuing on with the counseling, with the Youth Service Bureau, they're going to be twice a week at Ocean Shore, and then one day. What was the other one day?
So essentially, it's going to be 3 days a week. It's going to be 2 days a week of the counselor, and 1 day of the mental health trainee. So 3 days of services for our students, and that'll be in addition to the full-time school counselor for Ocean Shore.
Got it. My other question is the effects that it has on the kids, you know, if they're COVID positive and how they're dealing with that. And so I was wondering, what is the procedure for the counselor to bring the kids in, or how are they recommended to the counselor to see the counselor to talk about it? Did that make sense?
Yeah, so the students who actually may have who actually have been exposed and the close contacts. So yeah, this is something that we're strongly considering how to meet those needs. Christina and I have had conversations about this, and I know she's been working on that process. So actually meet with her tomorrow. So we'll probably have more information on that. But we do have to be proactive with those students and make sure that they're doing okay, that they're feeling okay coming back, and that it's a smooth transition for them to come back.
Exactly. Then my other one was on the COVID-19. So I understand, you know, that everybody's been really busy. You know, this is all new to us, and the procedures, and Yolanda is busy as well. And the superintendent, half of her day is going towards COVID. And so I was just wondering, as far as contact tracing, is that why the notifications are being delayed? So for example, if student A, you know, tested positive, and then, you know, students, you know, 2 through 30 were also close contacts, what do you have to do from that point on?
I'd love to talk about that one, because it's a very, very extensive process. Is number one, typically the parent tells the teacher, the principal tells Yolanda or tells me, and we get on it right away. So number one is reaching out to the parent of the student to verify that and to find out when did they have the test, what were their symptoms. There are about probably 20 minutes worth of questions that Yolanda gets, mostly verbally. Sometimes there's a Google form that gets filled out. It's really helpful when parents are take it as seriously, like that they call us right back, that they answer the questions. There are many, many challenging cases that are not as straightforward as I just had a positive test. And so as much as the time goes into determining what are the true positive cases, there also have been probably 2 to 3 times as many cases that ended up not being true positives. I heard, or so-and-so's uncle has, or all of it. So it, as much as it identifies, it also disidentifies. And so one of the things that San Mateo County Office of Ed is offered is kind of an umbrella contract around a company that can help us with that. And I will truly say that Yolanda has worked probably 12 hours every day last week, just calling people back and getting those answers. So it's determining what's the positive case. Then when we have that, we reach out to San Mateo County Health and we talk about the specifics around what's the next action. And so for us, for most of them, they have been modified quarantine. And it's a conversation between Yolanda, sometimes myself, sometimes John, the county health officer, in terms of like, what's the right next action? Is modified quarantine the right action? We want to kind of maximize the time that kids are in school and keep them from, we don't want to exclude them because they may have been a contact. We also have done full classes, right? So like if you think about the younger classes, say a first grade class, they do have their own chair, but they do often move around the classroom. And so there's the opportunity for interaction. And then in a 8th grade class that we had a situation this week is we also did full classes where we may have been able to do the students that sat right next to them. We could have looked at seating charts. So we were perhaps a little bit more aggressive on the modified quarantine with the hope that by being overly careful, we could prevent future cases. Contact tracing is what they say is one of the very most important pieces so that anyone who is positive is not in class. And that people are identified. I appreciate Ms. Gray's comment around more timely announcements on that, and we will look for some additional support in terms of doing that. And as she said, we need 3 John Bartfields. We just need more support. We've got our whole team here working on that. But if you think about that, we also have other jobs that we need to be doing. And so we'll be looking at some additional support, maybe clerical support. We're going to have the administrative secretary will be in the contract with the contact tracing. It's clear that this is a big job and we need more people power on that. So thank you for the question.
Thank you. Then I just have 2 more questions. I've just been hearing on social media that the testing is a little unclear to some of the parents, like, they get the notification and then of course, any parent's going to be concerned about their child being a close contact with student A. And so if you could just review, like, where can that parent get a test? I mean, if I were a parent, I would immediately go to their pediatrician, say, hey, listen, my child might have been exposed to COVID. Can you get a test today? And, I'm pretty sure they would say yes, but that's not a luxury or a privilege that all of us have. And so I'm just wondering, where would the best place go so they can get a test? That's not expensive, that's free. Do we have that information out to them?
Do you want to answer that one, John?
Yeah, we've been giving that information about different places in the community where it is free, different clinics. But you raise a really important point we'll make sure that that's prominent in our communications moving forward.
But I will actually, from people that have visited the clinics, there's a huge uptick in the lines for people that are getting their tests. And the people that work there say school's back in session, right? Everybody's getting tests. So So Jefferson Union High School District, up in their district office lot, they have tests every day, Tuesday through Saturday, appointments after 3 o'clock. But what parents are saying is that it's very difficult to get an appointment. Many have used the rapid test. So the good news is when we get testing up and rolling, is that the pooled PCR will happen once a week, and that we will also have the opportunity to do a rapid test, so that if there is a positive case, let's say when there is a positive case, let's be realistic about this, when there's the next positive case, when we have that BINEX training in, we can go to that classroom and test all the kids right as they leave. So that's test number 1 that happens immediately after contact. And then the next one happens within about 5 days, and we can do that also. So we'll be able to provide some of that for families. But we're just seeing across the Bay Area how challenging that's been for families. So we acknowledge that. And we have to say, we are so very grateful for all of the effort and as seriously as parents are taking this. Like that's one of the keys to us getting out of this.
Then my other question is about the testing, the pool testing. Will there be an opportunity for blind testing, even if there is no close contact or positive case in the class? So let's say Elizabeth's class, nobody's had any COVID cases, but we just want to make sure that there isn't one. Would there be an opportunity to test a class where there's not a COVID case?
Yeah, that's what our goal is to do that type of proactive pool testing. It's quick, it's anonymous. We get the results back within a couple of days, and within that time period, once we find out if there is a positive test, like Heather was saying, we can move in with the rapid and then find out exactly right away who is positive. But yeah, that's what our goal is to test every class in that manner.
And staff can voluntarily do it. They would have to sign up through a different portal to give consent on doing that, but they can also, if your class is getting tested, there's no reason why you wouldn't necessarily do that. And just because we get this question a lot is how could a first or kindergartner or a first grader do it? It's not that kind of upper brain test that they used to do. It's really just, they say if you can pick your nose, you can pick the test, right? Like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you stick it in the tube. People can't believe that the youngest kids can do it, but there are videos on the website that show that it's very realistic for kids to do that.
Got it. And then my last question is, would a nurse, a full-time nurse or a part-time nurse help the administration, with getting out the notices quicker? And are there any steps being taken to do that?
Yes. So yes, a full-time nurse would absolutely help in our efforts, and with other needs that we have in the district. And we have been looking for a nurse. The problem is just there are no nurses out there. There are nurses out there, but no nurses who want to come and be school-based nurses. We've gone the route, which is a lot. Theoretically, it could be a lot quicker and easier, which is to go through various agencies, through non-public agencies that usually will recruit based on what our needs are, try to find anybody that's interested, see if they can get any bites. We do use this also for nursing and for students with IEPs, with nursing in their IEPs. But all of those resources have proved to not produce. So we are looking at putting a district listing out there for a full-time nurse, and perhaps being a district employee might be more appealing to a candidate. But our problem is just a severe lack of candidates for that school-based nursing.
And I think that's all the questions I have. Thank you.
Good questions. Thank you.
I have just a couple of questions. new, so hopefully the questions are somewhat pertinent. Just to follow up on the last question on the pool testing, maybe I didn't catch it, but how often is it happening?
Weekly.
Weekly. And is it going to be in every school? Is it every, I guess, how do we do the sampling for that?
Yep. So it would be every student every week. And so it's been a little rough getting started, but we hope to start with Valamar on Tuesday. And so it's the concentric ginkgo also provides the staffing through a consulting agency. And so just trying to get all of those parts in one place. So our highest priority is obviously testing at Valamar. So in an ideal world, they would do 3 schools in one day and then 3 schools on another day. The perfect timing is 3 on Monday, 3 on Tuesday, and that way we have some time to do follow-up, and that it's not notifications that happen on Friday night or over the weekend. That would be a better pace for us.
Thank you. And then not in the testing, but actually a different type of testing that was brought up, the assessments. So with respect to the local assessments that you're doing and the new iReady assessment, which I think is a great proactive move to get a deeper understanding of our students. I noticed that there wasn't iReady in for kindergarten. Are there other ways that we could look at diagnostics for kindergartners?
I can answer that if that's all right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we decided that for our kindergartners, we would look at ESGI. It's an assessment system that it, again, assesses both the reading and the math, the pre-math skills. And it's something that has been used by some of our teachers within the district already. It's also used in district. So this year we were really thinking that we could have gotten iReady for kindergarten also, but we were thinking that we would go with ESGI since it's such a popular assessment and it has been fairly effective in looking at kindergarten readiness with regards to literacy and math. So, we obviously we have a 3-year plan with iReady. So we may, it just depends on how the teachers take it, if we're getting good data from it, to see if we would shift over and have kindergarten be doing iReady also.
Thank you. And then my last question, just a very quick question on the enrollment chart that was shared. Are you seeing new enrollments coming in, and what is the volume of that? And this is, I'm new to the district here, so I don't know when enrollments kind of steady out and if we're seeing a different trend this year versus, maybe previous years.
Yeah, in all fairness, I'm new to the district too, but in my first year in the enrollment department. But I, from in talking with Nicole Ortega, we are seeing more students enrolling now, I think, than after school's already started and kind of in general here at the start of the year than we have in the past. We're down like we said. But it is that interesting trend of people are coming back, like people are moving back to Pacifica. So I think that comparatively, we're seeing we're seeing more. We'll probably see an uptick in enrollment. I would think trend wise, which is a good thing.
Yeah. Thank you.
I just have a couple follow-ups. I was looking at my notes here and I forgot to mention a couple things. Heather, I know that we've had conversations about perhaps making a Q&A for parents on COVID. There's just so much language and information and, the information is changing. Let's see, as of 2 weeks ago, at the start of school. Is there any way we can do that, like condense it and or just help the parents understand? And even Megan's comment about making a to-do list, like, what are we supposed to do? I mean, you know, I know we're all new to this and everybody is putting their best foot forward, you know, in a changing pandemic.
Yep.
But I'm just wondering if there's any way we can address those concerns.
Yep, absolutely. We have a draft of a to-do list that we're going to share with the principals tomorrow, since we've had 3 principals have a COVID exposure at their school. So we will talk that through with the principals, and that's a pretty great foundation for that. So, you know, there's the production of written content, and then there's the getting the information out. And so tomorrow, before back to school night, Principal Monica LeBeau and John Bartfield are going to have a question and answer session for the Valamar parents that to address some of those concerns. You know, there's so much that parents want. We will never say it was this classroom. It just will, that's not information that we share. And so we do say that there's a COVID exposure. We, you know, make sure that we contact the parents that their child may have been exposed. But we will never say, here's the data, here's the specific students. It's about privacy. And that's, you know, something that we have to work hard on in a school community because people know each other very, very well. So in terms of the right now, written content is not our strength because we're struggling to get those letters out. There is no question that we are struggling. And if we look at our team, Kelly Elves, John Bartfield, myself, Yolanda, you know, the principals are on the ground doing the work with the principals, but the backup team is just not big enough. So what we need is just a little bit of a break or a slowdown so that we can kind of start to produce some of those materials, and people are getting more used to it, right? So people are starting to get that process. One of the teachers who was impacted at Ocean Shore has reached out and said she'd be happy to help produce any materials or help other people that are in that same situation. So what will probably not be a good use of time is developing exact specifications. If this, then that. If this, then that. Because we really are finding each one of these cases to be a little bit different. But in our work with Principal LeBeau is she's very organized and orderly, and she's developed a chart that we're going to share with the principals and get their feedback and input, and then we can share that a little bit more widely.
Thank you.
So I had 2 questions. Actually, one go back to the assessments just of the students. So shifting gears a little bit off of COVID. So one thing I noticed with all of those dates is that they often are about a month into the school year. And what I'm concerned about that is really that then you have students with special needs or that aren't really being assessed until like a month into school. But by the time the month into school has happened, they've already reestablished bad habits, or they're not, the teacher's not really aware of where they're at. And I'm just wondering, are these dates set by the state, or is this something that we can move? You know, I know there's a lot of pressure on teachers and I don't want to, you know, do that, but I also think we're just giving our kids a disadvantage if we don't assess them early enough in the year to get them set off on the right foot, you know, to really establish good habits early. So I'm just wondering, are those are these state dates, is this possible to be done earlier through additional teachers, or how can we fix this issue, I guess?
So the state ones, the state assessments that were that first slide of the assessment calendar, the state ones, those are set by the state. We do those within the boundaries of those times. The local assessments, the ESGI, the iReady, the Fonts Pinnell, the MDTP, all those assessments we set those. And we do try to align them up with so that because it's one thing to get the assessment, but the important thing is that we do something with the data. And the reason why the fall ones, most of them end on September 10th, which is coming up, right? The reason why that window was there in administering that assessment, there's a lot of things that have to happen before that happens. Like the list rosters have to be set. the students, when they first come back, they have to kind of get acclimated back into schooling, right? Into the classroom and that type of thing. So we tried to actually push those assessment dates up as soon as we possibly, having the windows as soon as we possibly could. In fact, I was just over to school today and they were requesting that we extend the window because it's hard to complete the assessment by the September. They were requesting an extension on it in getting those data in. So I believe it's as far up as we possibly can. I do know in practice that teachers are assessing right when those students get into their rooms. So they're doing that on an informal basis anyway, and they're already lining up like, I know that this student needs this, and I know that this student stuff like that. So those plans are already being processed. But as far as these district-wide comprehensive assessments, that we are really making kind of a concerted, intentional effort to give the assessment, to look at the data, analyze it, collaborate on it, and then make identifications for individual needs, groups, some students needs and all students' needs and assets. That happens. That's where what you're talking about, the little bit of a delay is. We need to be able to do that intentionally, and that takes time, especially when you're doing it district wide.
Well, I mean, I know we're getting better, but for years you would hear about people getting their assessments maybe all the way in February, or getting IEPs and 504s and that kind of thing. And at that point, the whole year is gone. So what I'm just trying to do is figure out how can, it'd be great if we can just make sure we're pushing that up so the kids from day one are getting the right chance, are starting off, and the teachers know exactly where they're at, and we're not having to reinvent the wheel mid-year.
But Linda, I think that also what you're talking about is a system for progress monitoring, so that it's not the teacher's only reliant on the data that the teacher has, but that data is somewhere so that the teacher can see what students did the year before and what kind of support or interventions were tried out and what was successful. So I think you're also talking about something just bigger than one set of tests. It's more like ongoing monitoring, right?
Right, I guess. Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
So anyway, well, I think you basically answered my question, and I said what my concern was. But my last thing, I would be remiss if I didn't ask if the cafeteria at Valamar, if the doors are staying open, if the kids are spread out, if they're getting an opportunity to eat outdoors, because that is a really small cafeteria, and I'm concerned about that and have been for a while. The kids eating in there.
So my understanding is that all kids are eating outside. I do know that John and I were over there today at lunch, or not at lunch, at recess time, and just depending on the supervision or the group, there was, some there were definitely 6 feet, some there were a little bit closer to 3 feet, and I think that's something that we can pay attention to. So making sure that when masks are off and eating, that there's just more time and more space. And it is, as we visit school campuses, it is an interesting thing because you can see where kids really miss being with each other. And lunch is typically a very social time. And one of this is not an uncommon concern, is what happens when it rains and we have to go back inside and we have to be either indoors or in the classroom. And is it realistic to ask kids to eat silently, moving straight ahead, so that there's not the aerosol spray? But it is definitely a big concern. And one of the kindergarten classes I saw in the center, definitely 6 feet apart. So I'm noticing people are paying attention to that.
Great, good to hear. Thank you.
So I just have a couple questions. I'm going back to COVID because it really concerns me. At what point do we consider either closing school? Like, how many cases are we going to if we get to a point where we're seeing case after case, when are we going to call it? Because we do have to be very careful. Unfortunately, our children under the 12 can't be vaccinated. So our elementary schools are vulnerable, which also puts our community in a vulnerable space. And so I don't want what's happening across the country to happen here. You know, the Delta variant is highly contagious, even for those who are vaccinated. When do we, call it? Is basically, do we have a plan for that? And my other question is, because they're related, are we going to consider making vaccinations mandatory for our students?
Great questions. At this point in the emergency use authorization stage, that's not probably a very viable move for us to do. The other piece is, as a tiny district, we are not likely to be the one right out in front, but there will be, just like there is mandatory vaccinations for other things, there will be a state effort for mandatory vaccination. So we certainly would comply with any piece of that. But at this point, probably will not be leading that charge. But in San Mateo County, there's a very high vaccination rate. I think as I understand it, is of eligible people in San Mateo County, that's 80%. And I know for our staff that it's even much higher than that. So that's a great point. So I've been, as I've been spending time both at Valamar and with the cases of Valamar, I've been on the phone every day this week with Nancy McGee of San Mateo County Office of Ed, and we've been talking to the San Mateo County Health Department. Today I spoke to an epidemiologist and just said, where is the criteria? What can we do? And she said to me, when I explained what was going on, and we had a class that had 4 positive cases, and that we had a school that had more cases than others, and she said that the mandatory quarantine, if done with integrity, and adding those layers of protection, promoting hand washing, self-monitoring symptoms, is that she believes that if we follow that we will be able to take that turn away from positive cases. If kids are getting sick at school, you're seeing kids get sick at school, that's where you would make that. We are very close in a class that has 4 positive cases. We are very close to thinking about quarantine. We're just not ready there yet, based on the advice that I got from San Mateo County Health, is that they believe that the modified quarantine can turn the corner on that one. In terms of a classroom with 1 or 2 cases, the quarantine is just too restrictive at this point. When we are taking a classroom of, say, 2nd graders and calling everyone in that classroom a close contact, that to put all of those kids on quarantine would really just be too restrictive with 1 or 2 cases. But we're certainly examining that and making sure that we, is it viable to keep that classroom open? Does the teacher feel strong and safe? Those kinds of things are what we're looking at. And so just people need to know that it's something that's in our toolkit. It's something that we are considering, but it's right now based on the advice that we're getting from both County Office of Education and San Mateo County Health, that we are going to continue with the modified quarantine. So we would certainly keep people advised if anything should change on that, but we feel like that is something that we can do at this point.
Thank you.
Welcome.
We have several people that have put their names in the comments on this item. So if you want to call them up now. Jennifer Mitchell.
Okay, hang on, Jennifer Mitchell. I'm assuming you are just Jennifer. Jennifer.
Yes, I am.
Good.
So Oh, thank you. I don't think I need that long. So I was just wondering, given that we at Ocean Shore don't have a counselor, we're the only school without a counselor, and given that we have had our share of tragedies outside of COVID over the past year and change, having 2 teachers pass away, having the flood, which I know everyone's tired of hearing about, but some of us are still unpacking and recovering from it. I'm wondering if there's anyone on this SO team who does not currently have student contact, who we could pull over to Ocean Shore in the meantime. I mean, we have need, just like all the other schools do. Our kids have the need for a counselor, and you know, a lot of them obviously haven't been to school in a long time. Many of my kindergartners haven't been to school at all. So I'm just wondering if that's something, I'm throwing that out there as just kind of a stopgap measure, if that's something that you all would consider. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next would be Michelle Gray. I don't think we can directly answer questions, but.
Correct. There's Michelle. Hi, Michelle.
Hello, thank you again. So a couple of comments really just to look for your recommendation on siblings, right? So different schools and things like that, because there is a quote cross-contamination among families, right? Not all kids are in the same school. So I don't really see any advice about that. And then about the testing that you're looking to implement starting next week, you know, a concern for me there, it's optional. Obviously, people have to provide consent to do this. We can't force people to do it, but you're not able to really capture the broad population here. And so it's a really small subset. And I am concerned about this pooled testing, so that if there was one positive in there, what does that indicate for the other, say, 24? What if someone's not at school to kind of complete that rapid testing and things like that because they missed school? So, you know, I understand this is an approach, and this is one thing, you just got to try lots of things and you're throwing lots of different things at it. But I feel there's a couple of gaps, and it may actually hurt the folks who try to participate in this, because they end up happen to be in this pool where there is someone who's positive. And then my last thing is just, there's so much testing, and I can tell you, I feel my son, for example, has been potentially out of school more than in school because of things going on right now. And so I know they missed a lot of this testing that's going on, Will. And so I do feel like that's a consideration for you all. There are just going to be some kids who aren't able to get tested and evaluated and identified for additional services, just because they're not at school right now. So sorry for a couple of different questions, but there was a whole lot of information that was presented in the last little bit. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Okay, and then we have Crystal.
Hang on a second. Is this a new Crystal Lou, or is this the old Crystal Lou? I don't think she's still with us.
Okay, she put her name in at 8.
That was 718. I think we're good.
Okay, well, 810, she put her name in again. But.
Okay, oh, let me just, I don't see her in there. Let me just look.
No, I don't see her.
I'll search here.
No, I don't see her either.
I don't mean to ignore her, but I'm not seeing her email address. Okay, let's go to the next one, Rachel Merlot. There you go. Hi, Rachel.
Hi. I'm sorry, I'm doing this for my phone this evening. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, you sound great, actually.
Okay, wonderful. So I would just like to comment in my double hat of both as a parent in the district and as a teacher. I just wanted to comment in regard about the pooled testing. As a parent, I still have gotten zero information about it. And I know that I personally was really hesitant in the beginning because I didn't feel like I had enough information about it. And after speaking to some of my lovely scientist friends, like gave me some more information. And I think that just a suggestion I would have would to really be more communicative to parents. I feel like I'm pretty in the know about stuff that's going on usually, and I'm clueless about that. It would help to maybe reassure families also about how this works. And also I've not received any sort of allowance or, you know, waiver that I would participate in it, because we do want people to participate in it so that we have the numbers. So just as a parent, it would be lovely to receive more information. And even if it's not happening at my child's school right away, that at least those forms were already sent and I know that it was coming, and that was, you know, there was some reassurance there. Just on the teacher level, I just would like to say how overjoyed our students are to be back and how lovely it feels to be back in my classroom. And just again, maybe some more real, you know, kind of air mail, or I don't know, just communicating to families the importance of also, if they are maybe thinking they have symptoms, to call it in so that they, you know, just really trying to take some of the stigma out of it a little bit more so that we can stay in school and we can be safe. I feel like there needs to be just some more, even if it's, you know, of course, and I know schools, you know, some schools are sending things out, but it just like in your classroom, you need to repeat, you need to be sending it more. And in both of my hats, I really think that it could help us all if there was more information being sent out. There's a lot of questions still, and you know, I think that would be great. And I would just wanted to say with the assessments, this is the first year in a long time that we have more assessments and new trainings and so many things that there's so much to do for teachers right now. And, you know, many of us are learning students' names for the first time, and we have to learn, you know, anywhere from 24 to 150 names in about 2 days. So then to also try to be pushing all the assessments when we just are making sure that we can figure out someone's name, only seeing maybe half of their face, you know, and reminding students about holding a pencil and paper, you know, we want them to do well as well. So I think a lot of us do appreciate that some of the assessments are not shoved all at once in the beginning, that we can actually just help to remind what it's like to be at school.
Thank you, Rachel. That's, we gotta cut you off. Thank you.
And then we have Darlene Soda.
Okay. Hi, Darlene.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so I just wanted to bring something to you guys' attention, which I'm sure you're aware of, but a lot of us parents are concerned. So the daycare facility at Valamar, they shut down 2 rooms because of COVID cases. Now those kids are not allowed back at daycare until they quarantine for 10 days. Now those same kids are still allowed in school, in class in Valamar. I'm just wondering, what is the policy with that, and why is it not uniform across the board?
So number one, we don't respond to questions, but I also can't share information on that particular situation because it would be sharing information around positive cases.
No, of course. I'm not saying I want to know who those children are or anything, but I'm just wondering what the policy is. And I get that you can't answer the question, but I just wanted to bring that to your attention, that it just really doesn't make any sense. And a lot of us parents are very concerned about that.
Yeah, we'll be happy to communicate about that one later.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I think this was an informational presentation. If that's all the questions. Thank you, everybody.
I don't see Crystal.
Nope.
Nope.
Okay, thank you, everyone. A lot to digest. We'll go on to item B, the workforce housing update.
Okay.
I believe is Josie.
Thank you, Trustee Burdall. Tonight we want to give you a summary update of the workforce housing project. If you can go ahead, Will, to the next slide. And here is what we'll be talking about tonight. I'll go ahead and start talking about the project objectives. So the project housing that is going to enable and improve recruitment and retention of our staff. As you know, one of the key issues here in the Bay Area is being able to have affordable housing. If you could just move forward one slide, Will, I'm not really going through the contents. So that is one of the issues that our HR department has had in recruiting, is being able to find affordable housing. We want to optimize the value of district assets to support the educational mission. And we do have a very valuable asset at the old Odstad school that we want to be able to optimize. We want to retain long ownership and control of district real property. We don't want to give up a very valuable asset. And we want to avoid material adverse impact to the district's operating budget. So in the long run, this will be enabling the district to maintain positive operating budgets. Implement safeguards to advance and protocol the district's interests. And at the same time, we want to be a good neighbor and community advocate participant in our neighborhood. So those are really our objectives. The next couple slides are just kind of a review of the current plan. And we'll just leave this up here for a moment so you can just look at it. It is a little bit small, but it's the Odstad site, and you can see the actual layout of the housing project. And you can see maintaining the trees, and it's really a really nice project when you look at it, what the design is. Go ahead and move forward to the next slide, Will. You can see the townhome elevations in the current plans. It doesn't take away from the neighborhood. They're kind of low elevations that fit in with the current neighborhood and doesn't impact any views. And go ahead to the next slide. And again, here's just another drawing of the building elevations and what they look like. And we can go ahead. So where we are now is we're still looking at 45 units in phase 1 and then additional 25 units in phase 2. We are currently using HART. It's the San Mateo County Housing Authority has given us financing, and we've been utilizing that for pre-construction financing. And then as the construction proceeds, we plan to issue a COP construction phase financing. We have experienced delayed progress. As you know, it's been delayed, for over a year. A lot of that is because of COVID, and now we're, as Linda mentioned, we just had a meeting with the city manager and staff, and we're looking to start moving a lot quicker now. The city has made a commitment and engaged an agreement with Good City Company as a contract planner. So they're contracting out some of the work to help us move this project along. The City of Pacifica's engagement of the M Group as the EIR consultant to the city in its role as lead agency for the CEQA process. That's really going to help us as well, because we're going to have an outside consultant help us move through the CEQA process. And then we do have a recommended need for professionally advised communication for our plan and community outreach. I do have a weekly call with Brookwood, and this morning they informed me that they have some good recommendations for a consultant to help us with this as well. We can go ahead and move forward. This is the schedule. You can see going back to 2019 when the initial design was made, and then 2020 through 22 is the CEQA process, the rezoning, city approvals, development agreement with the city, and then hopefully near the end of 22, the final design and the financing plan will bring back our finance consultant to work on the financing plan, and then the demo and grading in the end of 22 with construction lasting for 13 months. And then hopefully the year 1 operations will be in 2024. And go ahead and move forward. So it's really just a very high level summary for you. As we move forward, we will bring Brookwood back and our Workforce Housing Committee group to do more of a technical update for you, but this is really just an overview at this time. Now, I don't know if Trustee Burdell or Brokini want to add anything, because they were also present in the meeting. So this is a good time to ask questions or add any comments that you all might have.
I think the big thing was a big thank you to the city and the planning commission. They, this was delayed with COVID and then moving and all that, and they've made a commitment to go forward and get help while they're trying to move into new space and have their building taken down. And they've had several scheduled meetings with Brookwood, so it looks like we're really making progress going forward. The one drawing did not have the soccer field, so I just wanted to let everyone know that the two soccer fields that are used there would be staying, and there would be clubhouse also. So that didn't seem to appear on the drawing. I want to make sure that people knew it was still there. And Trustee Burkini, did you?
Yeah, I just want to reiterate that I really appreciate the city finally coming to the table this, and really they're putting some resources towards moving this forward. I think at the end of the day, once this is all finished and we're breaking ground, it's going to be great for the school district. It'll be on, we'll have a consistent revenue stream, as well as supporting our teachers and giving them and staff a place that's affordable here in Pacifica. So it was a great meeting, and I'm excited we're moving forward.
I just have a question. I didn't see anything on there about the money side of it. For example, when we first started the project, it was going to be $14 million, and now I think it's like 28 million. And so I'm just wondering how that's going to impact, if we wait another year or two.
Yeah, that's a very good question. And that's one of the plans we have when we bring back more technical information to you, is to have our finance advisor, Makiko, come and redo the financing with the current construction costs. The construction costs were escalating very quickly. And then what Brookwood was mentioning is through COVID, there was a slight slowdown in the construction costs. And so as we get closer to doing that, updating that financial analysis, we can see where we are with the current cost of construction.
Thank you.
Okay. Trustee Dogger, did you have any questions?
No questions.
Okay. Trustee Patel.
Out of curiosity, this would cover from the phase 1 45 units. That would cover, I guess, about a third or 30% or so of the expected kind of teaching staff. And I think the question that I have is that how does that compare with other workforce housing developments? Is that in line with how other districts who've done similar things have planned for workforce housing?
Yeah, I think the 45 units would cover a little bit less of our staff, because we're looking at all staff. We're looking at approximately maybe 300 employees in total. That includes all of our classified staff as well. And as far as the other developments, if you look at Jefferson Union High School District, they're the ones probably furthest along as one of our neighbors. And you can see that development. It is a lot more dense than our project. We purposely didn't look at designing a very dense project. So they have a lot more housing units because of the density. So I don't have the numbers off the top of my head, but it does look like theirs covers more as far as, in a correlation to how many staff they have. And I haven't really looked at the elementary district, Jefferson Elementary, to see how much coverage they have. But we do feel that it would be sufficient for when you look at our staff that have not been here a long time, those are the ones that would need the housing versus some of our teachers and classified staff who already live in Pacifica. It's really going to help us with some of the incoming staff and recruitment and some of the younger staff. So we think, we know we'll be able to fill it, and hopefully it's enough, for our current staff. But it's a good question. I don't know if somebody, Heather.
We have a ballpark of about 300 staff members. That's kind of how I ballpark that every year. Some years a little bit more, a little bit less. But I think where it's going to help us is if we think about our special ed openings and the contractors and our inability to fill up so many of those positions. We already have the Pacific Ocean right here, right? Like that's one of the best draws in all of America. I think people would love to come. we could recruit from a much, much wider pool of people from all over the United States. We can't do that right now because people look at our salary and say, oh, that's a great salary, I'd love to live there. But as soon as it comes time to find a place to live, they can't. And so that was just going to widen the pool for us in terms of being able to recruit from a wider group of people.
Absolutely. I think my mind almost went to, is that enough? And what are other districts kind of doing in terms of coverage?
Right. And we are, you know, it certainly has been discussed that maybe we don't do it in 2 phases. Maybe we only get 1 shot and we go for 70. The people that we work with, Armando Sanchez would say to us is like, if you have extra spots, you let us know, because we've got districts, you know, we can work with other districts. They would eat that up. There's definitely a need for teacher housing. Anything else? I don't see any public comment on this.
Well, and we don't want to overbuild the neighborhood, so we wanted to be conservative on that level too, to be in keeping with the neighbors.
Yeah.
Okay, this was information also. Thank you, Josie. And now we have item D. Item C, the bond project. Also Josie.
Yeah, thank you. Tonight, if we could bring forward Cece and Christy, they're both here tonight to present the bond. And I know they're both in the audience at this time.
Okay. Here we go. Cece. Cece is becoming a panelist. Welcome, Cece. Welcome, Christy. Cece is a panelist. She may need to unmute herself.
Here we go.
Good job. Hi, Cece.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. So I'd like to give an update on the bond project. So I'll start with the completed projects first. So next slides. So far we've completed a drinking fountain and touchless filter bottle station. It's completed March this year. And we also have all the outdoor furniture for multiple schools, and that's completed in November of last year. And we also started in October last year, the architect selections, and we completed that by the end of March, and we hired 4 architects for all of our 8 sites. And we also completed the Linda Mar Education Center fire alarm upgrades, and that work was being done during the after hours in the evenings by the contractor, and that's completed in April of this year. Next slide. So we have the following ongoing current project, and the pictures are just examples of some of the scope, because there's a lot of details in a lot of these projects. We won't be able to share all of them, so just some key points. We're currently working with all the architects on all the phase 1 improvements of 6 school sites. And the architects are in the design development phase with the plans. And the project is scheduled to be submitted to the Division of the State Architect, that's the plan approving agency, between August 10th and to October 4th. So Ocean Shore has been already submitted. We expect to receive approval by January and to bid the project in February and bring a contractor on board in March 2022. So between March and summer would be the material procure time, because oftentimes material has lead time, so we would use those times, and also review all the contractor submittals and have all the products reviewed and approved by the architects, and then we would start construction during summer of 2022. We also have Ingram B. Lacey campus-wide lock set replacement, and the project was bid in June of raw material shortage. So there's a delay in the supplier chain. So we're expecting the complete October, in this coming October. We're also doing dishwasher and miscellaneous equipment replacement at Valimar, Cabrillo, Sunset Ridge, and Ortega. We're looking at installation in October. Right now, we're waiting for the equipment. They're in order, and we're waiting for them to be delivered. And we're also doing asbestos assessments at Sunset Ridge, Ocean Shore, Valimar, Cabrillo, Ortega, as these schools were all built, in the early 60s or mostly 50s or 60s. So anytime in construction we disturb the asbestos material, we need to have those assessed, debated if needed. And also for Valimar, Cabrillo, and Sunset Ridge schools, we're replacing, it's Valimar, Cabrillo, there's a typo. It's Valimar, Cabrillo, and Ortega school have their existing classroom carpet replaced. And we're evaluating what's appropriate material to replace the carpet with, as a lot of schools and as well as the maintenance department desire like a resilient or hard surface type of floor. And usually those floors, the substrate concrete moisture content affects the performance of those type of floors. So we're having those assessment done with a flooring contractor. So the pictures are some of the improvements of the school. Like for example, Sunset Ridge, we have the admin area improvements, and the Ingrid B. Lacey School, we also have admin area improvements. And the Ocean Shore, those are the pictures of the new playground equipment where we're working on right now and looking to replace. Next slide. And also example, Valimar, we have a D wing, that's their middle class wing being enlarged. They also have a new kiln to replace the existing kiln shed. We're also working on the Ortega ADA improvements. Currently the lower parking lot has no ADA parking, and all the ADA parking has been in the upper lot. So we're going to have 2 designated ADA parking, including 1 van parking area in the lower lot, as well as install a crosswalk that's currently missing at the entrance of entrance to the upper lot, so that the path of travel will be continuous from the new ADA parking lot all the way to the school front. And that part is a little bit challenging, and working closely with the civil engineers and architect team, because the entire parking lot is sloped, and in the ADA parking lot, it has to be flat. So how can we have a very cost-effective solution, not regrading the entire parking lot while providing a flat area for those accessible parking spots? So we're working closely with architects on that. And also for Ortega, we're adding additional restrooms for the kindergarten and not kindergarten, for the special ed spaces, as well as providing additional toilet stalls for the boys' restrooms. And Cabrillo, one example of the work is we're cleaning up the area behind daycare portables and making a separate parents' entrance to drop off the kids, so the parents don't have to access the main campus and the playground in order to pick up or drop off their kids. So also at Cabrillo, there are some other projects very similar to Ortega. We're adding boys' restrooms. We're adding additional toilet stalls to the boys' restrooms. And next slides, please. So in addition to these bond projects, we also have other major projects going on for the district. So some of the projects are, Ocean Shore had a flood, so we had to replace the 3 portables with brand new portables, and those completed in March this year. We also had the daycare TTT portable roof, which was in really bad leaky shape, have that replaced. We also had Ortega greenhouse fire damage. The greenhouse replaced with a brand new greenhouse and with ADA upgrades. And some of the pictures are just showing some before and after photos of the greenhouse. And you can see some new furnitures and permanent new furnitures we bought for the school. Next slide. So this slide shows you the overall master schedule of the entire bond projects for every school. So all the color of each of the blocks, it basically shows a typical process of any of the project. Usually it takes architect selection, and then it takes a design phase. A typical design phase has a schematic design, design development and construction documents. So to bring a project from a very rough conceptual stage to a buildable stage, in terms of the detailed drawings. And then the architect would submit the drawings to Division of the State Architect, that's the approving agency of the state. And then after they review and approve it, we would put the project into bid. And then after bid, we would go through a material procurement phase. So usually those are, we allocate the time right before the summer, so the construction will fall right on time during the summertime. So across the board, you see on the left, I know the texts are kind of small, but basically on the left, you list the name of the school. And then the second columns are the specific project phases. And some schools will be able to complete, drawing-wise in one phase. However, the construction will take multiple summers. So if you look at the colored portion of this chart, you can see, the major green color, the dark green color, those are the actual construction time during the summer. And all the other colors before that are all the design approval and the bidding process right before that. And then you can see next summer, 2022, it will be a very busy summer while the majority of the schools will have construction going on. And then it will roll to some of the schools roll into 2023, for example, Valimar, and also the Cabrillo Gym and Ocean Shore, Lindamar, they'll have. And then some school will take even longer, for example, Ocean Shore, because Ocean Shore are adding additional classrooms. And in order for that to happen, we have to really phase it over multiple summers, because they have to finish one portion for the kids to move there and remove another portion and put a new building there. So the Ocean Shore and District Office will kick all the way into 2024 and 2025. Next slide, please. So our ongoing and upcoming facility bond task this fall for all schools would be, we'll review architects' work, facilitate school site review of the design, coordinate and conduct architects, engineer sidewalk, evaluate proposed project solution vs cost, review project design phase cost estimate, and provide design direction to all the architects. And we'll track architects' progress and enforce project schedule and get through the DSA approval process. And we'll also prepare all the phase 1 projects underway for bidding and conduct cost reconciliation and beta pre-qualification. As we have all 5 sites going into construction all at the same time in the summer of 2022, we will need to work on the project grouping, getting the potential contractors in talks early for their availability. For some schools, the phase 1 approved plans may take 2 summers to be completed, for example, Valimar. The plan is to bid out the project in January and bring contracts on board by March, and between March and June, we'll cover material lead time. And we'll also be working to set district standard product according to the product warranty, maintenance, cost, and we'll be selecting materials, colors, and finishes. And we'll be doing budgeting, checks and balances for all project soft costs. And we'll organize and document all bond spending for expense tracking and auditing. We'll also be issuing a request for proposal to bring a few moving companies on board so that they'll vacate the classroom right after the last day of school for summer construction. And we'll also facilitate state funding application, because many of our schools are eligible for additional state funding. And we'll facilitate submitting the plans to California Department of Education for approval. And that approval process is required in order to get state funding. And we'll also have roof repair and replacement for Sunset Ridge, Valimar, Ortega, and Ocean Shore. We'll need to complete the bid documents and put the project out to bid. And Cabrillo new gym project right now is in the project assessment phase, but it will develop further into design phases. That will involve a lot of school district, neighbor, and community stakeholder review process. And we'll also kick off the architects team to start phase 2 projects for Ocean Shore, Sunset Ridge, or Ortega. Which is for example, the new field project at Ortega. So that's scheduled for the summer of 2023. So these are the projects. So now let me hand it over to Christy for technology.
Great, thank you, Susie. I can see that I'm unmuted. I don't know if you can see me, but I can keep going if you can't. Great. So yes, it's been a busy summer at the district office in IT. We have been busy working on different aspects of getting ready for the technology upgrade that we're doing this fall. So why are we doing a technology infrastructure upgrade? Well, it is long overdue. Technology waits for no one. And we, by doing this, we will be able to serve our students and our staff and our community in a greater capacity that keeps up with the current needs and ever changing and more needs with regards to connectivity, technology tools, devices, and other ways to create more innovative learning experiences for our students. So as you can see here, there's some aspects of how this is going to impact our students, our staff, our families, and also at the district level, business office, HR, those types of things as well. So just some highlights in order to support a one-to-one Chromebook environment, which is what our goals are. We do need to have stronger access points and better connectivity through upgrading our cabling in all of the buildings. So we will be going to Cat 6 across the board, and that will be that will help a lot of these ongoing connectivity issues that can randomly happen from poor cabling. Also standardization of classrooms, offices, common spaces. So there's more consistency with the types of access that is being given in those classrooms or in those spaces. And also, as far as the district level, security-wise, security is, of course, paramount and first and foremost in our network environment. By making sure that we upgrade our data center, we are keeping up on our firewall. We have updated and modern hardware and software that can last us over the next years. That is important. Also, just by doing that, a greater ability to control and integrate everything at once, having backups and being able to troubleshoot as well. Next slide. So here's just like a brief timeline of what happened this summer, really from June through August, but lots of design meetings and workshops with the vendor who got the bid, AMS, that we are working with, about, all the different sites, site walks, understanding the architecture, how things are going to lay. We conducted a outdoor wireless assessment, so we are able to put up outdoor access points. So when students are outside, they actually could connect, and engage in learning outside with devices if need be. We also did a security camera assessment of all sites, and this was to really, for right now, the phase of being able to lay cable for future potential use of inserting or adding security cameras. So we're just laying the cable at this point, but that was also another assessment that we got completed, and those have been very thorough and will be maps that will be used for that. Finalizing the designs, and of course securing the equipment, and as Cece, I'm sure, has also felt, as some of our other colleagues, pandemic delays, with some of the equipment and getting that in here. We're not really too far off target. The cabling, some of the copper has been delayed till end of September, October, but we're able to kind of go with the flow, and we're going to start laying down fiber first, so we're able to continue to still move forward and not waste time. You can see below the general schedule of work and what sites we will be engaging with during those months. We are actually going to be starting this upcoming Friday and weekend at Sunset Ridge with some fiber, so laying that down. So very excited because they were able to get in ahead of schedule. And then we were pushed out to about February now. We were thinking December. That was fairly aggressive, so totally fine. Ingrid B. Lacey is last because it is actually the most complex site for us, and we're still figuring out some design aspects of how things are going to lay because of all the different breezeways and the separate buildings there. But other than that, we're pretty much set. And then just again, the total cost for everything that we're doing is that just over $4 million. That has not changed. So that is just generally my update. And any questions for Cece or myself?
I had two quick questions for Cece. First of all, both of you, thank you so much for doing this. I know it's a ginormous job, and the district is really, I mean, I think it's just great for the kids and to get all this done. So thank you. So two things popped up during your report, Cece, is a question about roof repair. It says you'll get bids by the end of the year. I just wanted clarity on, is that the end of the school year or the end of this year?
The end of this year.
Okay, so
end of this year. Yeah, we usually contractor, they get busy towards summer because we want to replace this roof by summer because you think about roof replacing, they have smells. So normally, even though they're on the roof, we want to avoid doing the work once kids are around. And so, but in order to get competitive bids, we want to do the bids early. So the contractor have, usually the December, January is the best time to bring a contractor on board for anything going on over the summer, because you do it too early, then they don't think about a job a year from today. But then 6 months before, you're right, fill up the rest of the workload. So that's the best time. So we're talking about getting the bids done before the end of this year, calendar year.
Perfect, thank you. And then my other question has to do, I noticed on the drawings that at Valamar, it says the D-wing expansion, and then it says new play structure. I happen to know personally that play structure is only 5 years old. So it's got another 10 to 15 years warranty on it.
Yeah, that's.
So I know it's probably because clearance and code that we've got to move it, but I'd hate to just throw it away and not get use out of it.
I know. It's really unfortunate because that play structure is really in the way of the D1 expansion because it's right next to a major fire lane. We have to move it. So I looked into the cost of moving it as opposed to buying a new one. So the cost difference is only $10,000. And we had some, I'd say six years some use of it, and it does have some rust, to that play structure, and the new structure. We're thinking, so we evaluate that. We feel like maybe buying a new one would be more cost effective because it's new, and it's also have much better warranty and very rust proof as well. So we figured we might as well just install a new one. Because every time when you move something, you have to carefully disassemble it, making sure not no pieces missing, or have to temporarily store it somewhere. So it's all those associated costs as opposed to especially the price difference is $10,000.
Yeah, well, I had to say something. So anyway.
Yeah, we totally understand. We really looked into relocating that, but we feel like the life, the life cycle cost of moving it is not worth the effort of, So it's like we pay $10,000 rent on that play structure.
Sure.
Sorry.
Okay, well, thank you. Those are my only two questions.
Thank you.
Cece, I have one question. It's about the ADA compliance at Ortega.
Mm-hmm.
I understand, that everything for the lower level having handicap parking will be in 2022, right?
Correct. Summer of next year.
Yeah. And then the curbs can't be, a curb cannot be temporary because we have to have approvals. But my other concern is in the morning time, it's about access now. In the morning time, the cars at Ortega line up into the parking lot. And I'm just wondering if there's access enough for somebody who has a wheelchair and needs to use the handicap parking on top, if there's an easy way to get up there still, or is it being blocked by other cars? Or are there cones there so that people don't go up there? So I'm just curious.
Yeah, I feel like it probably can be something we can discuss a solution with the school in terms of managing the morning hour arrival time, because there are 3 existing accessible parking in the upper lot. So the challenge the specific parents have was those spots were always occupied. So this is the feedback I got from the Facebook page. So it's always occupied, also by a legitimate spot. Actually, I personally went there, I checked on those spots, and they actually did have the sticker on it, even though there's only, at the time when I was checking it, it's only 2 spots were occupied. There was 1 additional available. So I'm wondering, because the parents only drop it off in certain hours, right? Is there a way we can coordinate the hours with the school, you know, for the upper lot, and also some other additional ways? Maybe we designate an area just for her to drop it off. So it's something I can discuss with the school. I think, and you know, we passed this bond, you know, the improvements are happening. You know, I wish we had this improvement yesterday. I wish that, but unfortunately, every time during school construction, you know, it cannot happen overnight, because it's got to be approved. It got to be properly inspected, properly designed, properly approved to provide a safe and up to code place for the kids to, you know, to use. And we cannot install something temporary in a potential violation of the code. And, you know, if they trip, they hurt, and we can't take that responsibility.
Thank you.
Did we have any other questions? Trustee Doggett, do you have any?
No questions.
Okay, Trustee Patel, do you have any?
Questions, but thank you for the report.
Okay, thank you for all the work you're doing. That was a wonderful report. Look
I
forward
want
to
to put a shout out to both Christine Novak and CC Ming. I don't know if you all recall 2 years ago when we had almost no progress on our bond, and the opportunity to hire somebody with the talent of CC and Christy that are moving these projects along so wonderfully. And we're so fortunate to have both of you. So thank you for all your work.
Thank you.
I want to get out there and see the greenhouse.
It's amazing. It's beautiful. It is beautiful.
Gotta get the chickens back. Okay. All right. Well, thank you for the presentation. Appreciate that. And that was information and nothing to vote on. Then we have item D, the LCAP, and that would be Will Lucy.
Hi, everybody. I will try to make this quick because I know it's we're dragging along here. But the thing I put in front of you is the LCAP, and you probably are wondering, why are you putting the LCAP in front for approval? Because that on January 9th, we approved the LCAP, and then from that, the LCAP went to San Mateo County for what's called post-approval review. From that review, the San Mateo County Office of Ed LCAP review team identified areas that needed to be clarified. And I want to make that kind of clear. It's just more of a clarification of certain items that were in the LCAP that needed to be clarified in order to be compliant for submittal to the state. So there was really very few areas that needed to be clarified when all was done. But I'm going to pull up on the screen the section that had where the clarifications needed to occur. That section was the increased improved services for foster youth, English learners, and low income students. And those areas, if you can see that on the screen, those areas that are highlighted yellow were areas that were added, was language that was added to those sections. So, and the reason why those areas, that language was added was it was, again, just clarifying where the action supplied the need for foster youth, English learners, low income students, and specifically how they were considered first. So it's really around, the clarification was around this first prompt, which was part of this section increased and improved service sections. I'm not going to read through as part of this item, and you can see those areas that are highlighted, and they're just around our designated English ELD instruction and professional development, which was 2 actions under goal 2, our school site screen teams, our early learning program. Those were the 3 areas, or the 3 actions within that were clarified. So I'm wondering if you have any questions specifically about any of that language that was added, or if there was anything else that you would have questions around this item. I'm willing to answer them.
No questions.
No questions.
Okay, doesn't look like there's any questions. Okay,
I'll make a motion to approve the LCAP with the changes noted.
okay, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Kelly, can you take the roll call vote?
Trustee Burdell,
Yes.
Trustee Burkini,
Yes.
Trustee Doggett,
Yes.
Trustee Patel,
Yes.
and Trustee Villalobos.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion passes 5-0.
Okay, item E, the San Mateo County Office of Ed MOU Teacher Induction Services. Dr. Torres?
Hi, I did not know I was presenting.
Okay, here you go. I'll do it.
Sorry, your name was on there.
All right. I'll jump in if I may. Is that teacher induction, when someone gets their credential, it's a provisional credential, a preliminary credential, and they have to complete a 2-year program that completes their credential so that it becomes a full credential. And in order to do that, there's like a state induction services. And so we contract with San Mateo County Office of Ed regarding that. And so this is the agreement to provide those services and contract with San Mateo County Office of Ed teacher induction program. Sorry, Carla. It's been a crazy week. Do you have any questions?
Okay, I'll go down the list. Trustee Burkini, any questions?
No questions.
Okay, Trustee Villalobos?
No questions.
Trustee Doggett?
No questions.
Trustee Patel?
I assume this is fairly standard. I'm new to the district, but are there other providers of induction services that are typically used, or is the county Office of Ed the standard choice?
That actually is a great question. I think having worked in San Mateo County for the last 20 years, I think almost everyone uses the county. Every once in a while, people might use an East Bay school district, but I wonder in virtual world, like there are some fabulous programs in San Diego, and I wonder if that's going to be, people will go across counties. But right now, everybody goes to San Mateo County Office of Ed.
Thank you. No other questions.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve the San Mateo County Office of Ed MOU Teacher Induction Services?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Kelly, can you take the roll call vote?
Trustee Burdell,
Yes.
Trustee Burkini,
Yes.
Trustee Doggett,
Yes.
Trustee Patel.
Yes.
Thank you. Trustee Villalobos.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion passes 5-0.
Okay, item F, hiring administrative secretary position. Also Dr. Torres?
Dr. Torres, would you like that one? I'm also happy to.
Dr. Olson?
Me?
Yeah, go ahead, Dr. Olson.
Okay. This one is actually very easy. Clearly, in COVID land, we are under-resourced. When we assigned the administrative secretary position last spring, it was temporary and it's to expire at the end of September. Clearly, the person in that position is doing contact tracing. We need to have probably 4 people to do this, but what we're asking you tonight is just 1 position. This position doesn't have a deadline, so it will be in student services until it's either not needed or the money is no longer there. But if we think about getting past the COVID hump, there's also all sorts of pandemic recovery that needs to happen around attendance and supporting students that may be homeless or students that experienced adverse effects during the pandemic. So we need an additional secretary. We would pay for this with some of the COVID monies that we have, and we're asking you. We're recommending that you approve us to hire 1 administrative secretary that we would use primarily for COVID, but the recovery from COVID as well.
Okay, for questions, Trustee Villalobos?
Well, I'm just wondering how much the position is paid for.
How much the position is. Did you ask how much it's going to be? Oh, the salary? We can get you that answer, but I don't know off the top of my head. We can get you that answer.
Thank you.
Okay, Trustee Burkini?
No questions.
And Trustee Doggett?
No questions.
And Trustee Patel?
No questions.
Okay. We have a motion to approve the hiring of the administrative secretary.
I'll make a motion to approve the administrative secretary position.
And a second?
I'll second.
Okay, and Kelly, can you take the roll call vote?
Trustee Bradell.
Yeah.
Trustee Burkini.
Yes.
Trustee Doggett.
Yes.
Trustee Patel.
Yes.
And Trustee Villalobos.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion passes 5-0.
Okay. Item G, Board of Trustees stipend and Board bylaw 9250 remuneration. Dr. Olson?
So my computer's freezing now at this point, but so this is an uncomfortable conversation, is to talk about your own compensation. And we just started in June and then just never had enough people to be able to talk about that. But all of the district employees received a 3% raise this year. And that we have not discussed the trustee stipend, the monthly stipend, since 2013. And so it is my highest recommendation based on a very challenging year where the responsibility of this position has been just overwhelming, is that we go to the current stipend is $160 per month. And that we move toward the Ed Code allowable $240 per month. And that would be my recommendation. And in order to do that, we would do that by adopting board bylaw 9250 and just making the adjustment on that. So what questions might you have?
Okay, I can go down the list. Like Trustee Villalobos, any questions?
I'm just wondering why we haven't reviewed it before, or have we, and we just never had a discussion about it?
The last documented change was 2013, and in fact, it wasn't even on my radar until I saw Jefferson Union High School District changing their stipend, and it just seemed to make sense to do that.
Okay, Trustee Burkini?
No questions.
Okay, Trustee Doggett?
No questions.
Trustee Patel?
No questions.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve the Board of Trustees stipend for board and Board bylaw 9250?
I'll make a motion to approve Board of Trustees stipend on Board bylaw 9250.
Okay, I'll second that. And Kelly, can you take a roll call vote?
Trustee Bradell.
Yes.
Trustee Burkini.
Yes.
Trustee Doggett.
Yes.
Trustee Patel.
Yes.
And Trustee Villalobos.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion passes 5-0.
Okay. I'm moving to my paper. I'm now moving to my paper agenda because my screen is frozen.
Okay, it's item H, resolution 2021-09-01-8, compensation for board member missed meeting.
Perfect. This is compensation for the missed meeting for Trustee Doggett, and a resolution. Trustee Doggett missed the June 30th meeting, and it was a hardship. So I would ask you to approve compensation for her during that meeting.
Okay, are there any questions? Trustee Villalobos?
No questions.
Trustee Burkini?
No questions.
Trustee Patel?
No questions.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve the resolution 2021-09-01-A, compensation for board member missed meeting?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Kelly, can you take the roll call vote?
Trustee Burdall.
Yes.
Trustee Burkini.
Yes.
Okay, and Trustee Doggett won't vote on this item. Trustee Patel.
Yes.
Trustee Villalobos.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion passes 4-0.
Okay, item A, resolution 2021-09-01-B, compensation for board member missed meeting. Dr. Wilson.
This is mine again. So this is for Trustee Burkini, who missed the August 11th meeting because of hardship. So I would ask that you approve the resolution for compensation.
For questions, Trustee Villalobos?
No questions.
Trustee Doggett?
No questions.
Trustee Patel?
No questions.
Okay, Kelly, can you take the roll call vote?
I'll make the
can I have
motion. I will make the motion to approve the board compensation.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Okay, Trustee Burdall.
Yes.
Trustee Burkini won't vote on this. Trustee Doggett.
Yes.
Trustee Patel.
Yes.
Trustee Villalobos. Thank you. The motion passes 4-0.
Item J, the call for nominations for CSBA directors at large, African American, American Indian, and county. Dr. Olson?
Yep, this is a standard thing that every 2 years boards are asked to do. We are a part of a larger organization called California School Boards Association. And in addition to having regional directors, they also have directors for directors at large, African American, American Indian, and county. So we wouldn't be eligible for the county one. But what I'm requesting from you is, do we know anyone that would be interested in being nominated for one of those positions? And it's okay to say we don't know anyone.
I will say that my plate is very full right now. So just in case anybody wanted to nominate me, I would I would be very grateful, but at the same time, I am just really overwhelmed at this point.
I was actually going to lead with that, is that this is for all of our trustees, that this is such a challenging time that I don't know that it's any of our internal candidates that we would even consider, because our plates are so full. So thank you, Kai, for saying that.
And I looked into it, and the commitment is great as far as the meetings, and there's just no way I could do both. And if you can't do this one, you can't do the other one. So.
Okay. So I guess if we're not electing a member, will be no action taken?
No action taken.
Okay, thank you. Item K, Board of Trustees School Assignments 2021.
Yep, I'm going to try to share my screen here, see if this will come in. So we, do you see school board member assignments? Let me get some of these things off here. Can make it a little bigger. So every year at the beginning of the year is when we do the school assignments. And I think my recommendation, because last year was COVID and we were not in person, my recommendation that we retain the same schools, and that Trustee Patel would take Trustee Steele's place. But this decision is certainly that of the trustees. So please share your thoughts on that.
I think that's a good plan. It's fine with me. Let's see if anyone has any. Trustee Burkini, did you have any questions?
No, that sounds good to me. It's a good plan.
Okay, Trustee Villalobos.
Sounds good.
Trustee Doggett.
Works for me.
And Trustee Patel, I guess you'd be taking Trustee Steele's place.
Happy to and excited to.
Great, good. The district committees is what we do from January to December. So we'll revisit that in December. And then we may want to look at just some of these committees. Again, kind of a recurring theme of most of the adults in my life is that there's too much on our plate. And if we need to think about doing less of these things, we can certainly have some discussion. That's not for today necessarily, but just wanted to put that out there. This is the time as we think about trustees. I was delighted that you all met in person and made that connection, because it seems like that's been so long away, and more of you are going to be visiting school sites. So just recognize that when we report out on the things that we do, it is not a contest, right? It's what we know is it is amazing to see people in person, and people really appreciate the efforts that the trustees put in terms of visiting schools. So do not feel like we have to do more. It's like, let's get out there and make those connections with people, and people are grateful. They're grateful for your leadership during a very, very challenging time. And you know, we have to be careful as we come back that we're not taking on more than we can actually do. So thank you very much. So let me just check. I'm checking the agenda. Is that an action item?
Yeah, that's an action item. So do I have a motion to approve the Board of Trustees school assignments?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, and Kelly, can you take a roll call vote?
Trustee Bradal.
Yes.
Trustee Burkini.
Yes.
Trustee Doggett.
Yes.
Trustee Patel.
Yes.
And Trustee Villalobos.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion passes 5-0.
Okay, item 11, future agenda items.
Okay, my screen is just too, it's too slow to share. Let's see if I can do that. Maybe see, this will come up. I don't know why it slows down at the end of the meeting, but at our next meeting on September 22nd, there are a few things that we are required to do by time. Is the unedited actuals for the fiscal year. That would be a Josie presentation, and the GAN limit resolution. We are required because of the Williams is to make a statement of pupil textbooks and instructional materials. And then there are three things that we would like to do: is give a report on final certificated assignments, give an update on our staff demographic data, and there is a grand jury response around diversity in the workforce. And so those things flow very nicely together. Then on the 29th, we have a board work study session. Right now, that September 29th is going to be our last virtual board meeting. That the provision around virtual board meetings expires at the end of September, and that we would be back into the boardroom in October. So, are there any requests for future agenda items?
Yeah, I think that looks like a full plate.
Sure does. Absolutely.
Okay. I guess we're done for this evening.
That is it.
Okay, so Next meeting will be the 22nd, and we'll adjourn the meeting at 9:52. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.